Hey everyone, welcome to the Wilson Homestead. So on today's episode I have some exciting news. I have been really busy out in the perennial garden bed and it's looking pretty good. I want to show you all the changes that I have made out there. But first, before we go to the perennial bed, I want to take you down to the vegetable garden and give you kind of a little update of what I'm doing down there. So let's go. Got my little helper here, Hiccup the garden cat. Every time I'm in the garden, he has to be down here with me. I got this organic all-purpose plant food from Walmart. This is actually the second bag that I have purchased. I got one before and it only did about half of the garden, so I went and picked up another one. And usually I would like to get Espoma or something, but I just thought, well, I'm going to try this because it's like half of the price. But it says it has beneficial microbes and natural and organic nutrients. And down here is the analysis. Can you see that? Hiccup keeps rubbing against the camera. Hopefully I'm not too shaky. But you can see, like, it has poultry litter, feather meal, bone meal, calcium, all of the good stuff, potash, whatever, nitrogen. So we are going to apply this to the garden and then I need to water it in. I am going to use a glove to handle this stuff with because it is kind of stinky. Like it says, it comes from chicken litter, so it's a little bit stinky and I don't want my hand to smell like that, so I'm going to use this glove. I have a kind of a funny story. A couple weeks ago I applied liquid fish fertilizer to the entire garden and I thought, well, I don't need gloves, I'm not going to make a mess with it. Well, I ended up spilling it like down the sides of the bottle, and then I grabbed the bottle with my bare hands and I could not get that fish smell out of my hands. And also I accidentally spilled a little bit down my shoe and it was just awful. Like, I could not stand the smell of myself and I kept washing and washing and it wouldn't come off. So finally I soaked my hands and feet in a mixture of brown Listerine, warm water, and Epsom salt, and that actually took the smell out of my hands and feet, thankfully. Now, I did smell like Grandma's dentures after that, but that's better than the fish factory. Okay, here's what it looks like, and I'm just gonna sprinkle this about with no rhyme or reason. I'm not going to like measure out like a quarter of a cup or whatever it tells me. I'm just gonna sprinkle it everywhere. Just side dressing everything here. These are green beans, bush beans. And usually they don't need a lot of nitrogen, but these have been struggling, so I'm just going to put this stuff everywhere. And the garlic is pretty much done, so I am not going to put anything on it. You can see that the leaves are starting to yellow. Once this leaf here gets pretty much brown, I'm going to go ahead and pull these out. And we'll see what kind of harvest we got this year off of the Italian garlic. My Muncher cucumbers and Bait Alpha cucumbers are doing pretty good. They're starting to get to a point where I can start training them up this trellis. So I just kind of, let's see if we can find one to do this with. I just kind of flop them through here before they get too big. And just train them a little bit. Once they get going, you usually don't have to do this all the time. Like, you just have to get them started up. Oops, I just ripped that leaf. But anyway, you just gotta get them started up and then they'll kind of take off by themselves. I had to go through and tie my tomatoes up again. You can see this one is already at the top of the cattle panel here. These are the Amish paste tomatoes, but also I did a lot of trimming here on the bottom because they were starting to get really sick with blight or something. So I went through all of the tomatoes and trimmed them up, probably I would say a couple feet from the bottom. But I'm starting to get some fruit set on some of these. They look pretty good, other than, you know, the tops of the plants still really look healthy, so hopefully they don't get too sick and I get something out of them. Look, this needs tied up again already. Ugh. But anyway, I'm really impressed that they have grown this much. I planted these probably around the 1st of June. And it's now the 4th of July, and I mean, like I said, they're at least 4 feet tall. The Amish paste are anyway. There are some that are shorter. See, these are only about halfway up. This one's almost to the top. Let's see if we can find any more fruit set. Oh, look here. Let me see what variety this is. Mortgage lifter. Got some nice fruit set right there. And some more right here. I think these are Paul Robeson's. Yeah, Paul Robeson. Yeah. There's some more fruit set there. Oh, I cannot wait to have a tomato sandwich. Cannot wait. Okay, I got all of the stinky fertilizer spread out over the garden, so now it's time to water. We haven't got rain for a few days, so I'm going to go ahead and water everything in the garden. And I just wanted to show you, we got some of the quick connect pieces for our hose. I love them because all you have to do is there's a female end and a male end, and you just push up on this. Hopefully I can do this one-handed so I can show you with the camera. But anyway, you push up and it's connected. That easy. You don't have to screw on the hose, unscrew the hose, because sometimes I use watering cans so I can fertilize. Here's that stinky fish fertilizer that I used and got on my hands. Yep, it was a lovely time. But anyway, let's get to watering. Everything's watered, so there's just a couple more things that I wanted to show you while we're down here in the vegetable garden. I have a bunch of mammoth basil and I keep pinching it back and it's looking really good, but I have discovered that I love the smell of basil, but just to eat it plain, I don't care for it. I think it tastes like licorice, so I'm kind of hanging off until like I get some tomatoes to eat this with, like if I mix tomatoes and basil and mozzarella cheese, see if I like that, or maybe I could dry it and use it for seasoning. Look at this beautiful sage plant. This is one of my most favorite plants in the garden, and I've already dried enough sage that I don't need any more. But look at these blooms. This is beautiful. And this thing is massive. Like, it has taken up a significant chunk of my garden here. And I have 2 plants like this in the vegetable garden. So one of them is probably going to have to go, but I just love this. And the bees love it too. My candy onions are doing really well. They're starting to bulb up. I came through and pulled the soil away from the bases of the plants so that way they would have an easier time bulbing up. But you can see that some of these are getting pretty big. I'm so excited about these. Hiccup's still here with me, enjoying the garden. Time for a little break, huh? Anyway, I wanted to elaborate a little bit on these bush beans here. These are pencil pod bush beans. And I thought that they were, like, they have such a clever name because they're a wax bean. So the bean is actually yellow, but the seed inside is black. So that's why they called it pencil pod bush bean, which I think is going to be really cool. I've never grown these before, and they were having a tough time until I put some fertilizer down, and now they're starting to pick it up a little bit. Now these sunset runner beans are still struggling. You can see the leaves do not look very good. The Kentucky Wonder pole beans are already starting to climb the trellis. Okay, last thing that I wanted to show you down here in the veggie garden are a couple of these different types of peppers that I'm growing. I have a lot of peppers sitting on. And anyway, this one here is a golden California Wonder pepper. And it is getting pretty big. And then right here next door to it, I have some big red bell peppers. Look at those. Now they'll get a lot bigger than this, but oh my goodness, I'm so excited about eating some good peppers. Okay, now we're up here at the perennial bed. This is the real reason why I made this video, because I have made some progress up here that I wanted to show you, and also there's some pretty things happening in here. But anyway, if you can remember from the last perennial video that I did, this whole entire area was engulfed with Select Blue Catmint, and I managed to dig all of that out, so it is gone and will never have a place in my garden again because it just got too carried away for me. So I took all of that out, and in its place I have a moonbeam coreopsis, and I planted a few annuals here. These are, let's see, what's the name? Globe Amaranth. Gomphrena, I think, is the Latin name. And here, I'm not sure what this is. I have a good guess. While I was weeding this entire garden, I pulled up these little bulb-looking things because I thought this was grass. I thought it was a weed, and I pulled it up, and then I started thinking, oh crap, is that Crocosmia? Because I planted, I think it's like Lucifer or something like that. It's a red Crocosmia, but I'm not sure this is what it is. I transplanted it over here because I thought, well, I would like to have some red out front here, so we'll see what happens. It might still be a weed, I'm just not sure. And right here, I'm pretty sure that this plant is related to catmint also, but this stays really tiny. I think it's like Calamintha or something like that. And like, look how little it is. And I've had that in here for probably 2 years at least, and it's just still this little tiny thing that doesn't get out of hand, and I appreciate that. I did add a whole bunch of Prairie Sun Rudbeckia throughout this garden bed too. The biggest, most major thing that I did to this flower bed was remove all of the ditch lilies. I don't know if they were like really called tiger lilies, but the orange ones. In fact, I have some across the driveway. I'm going to go show them to you right now so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, these are what I call ditch lilies. You see them all along the roads, and also you see Hiccup the garden cat. But anyway, these are everywhere. They spread so fast that they were just taking over my entire perennial bed, so they had to go. Now this stand right here, I will probably just leave them because I don't plant anything down here across the driveway anyway. So they're going to be allowed to stay here for a little bit. They are pretty, but I just don't like them, and they just spread too much, so I'm not going to deal with it. They got to go. Okay, we're back up at the perennial bed, and I just wanted to like kind of show you that those daylilies, they were like all through this section right here. I had to dig out a great big patch of them here, and then there was a great big patch of them right here, and then there were several over there that I had to wrangle out from underneath the peach tree, and that's a whole other story that I'll get to here in a minute. But anyway, in place of those lilies here, I planted a few columbines which got attacked by leaf miners. But hopefully they will be okay and come back next year and bloom. I started those from seed. And if you hear something in the background, well, I guess I might as well show you what we're dealing with. Eva. Eva, what are you doing? This is... You don't like Hiccup the garden cat, do you? No, you don't. Well, you have to get used to him, because he's staying, okay? Okay. But anyway, like I said, I started these... She's not going to let me finish this video. It's time to be quiet, Eva. Miss Eva. Miss Eva. Shh. Shush your mouth. Anyway, I started these from seed. I think it was probably February, March of this year. And the poor things, I just had them hanging out on my porch until, I think it was last week I finally brought them out here and planted them. They were in tiny little cups. So that's probably why they got so stressed out and the bugs attacked them. But I'm hoping that they'll bounce back, and then next year they'll give me some pretty good blooms. And here is why my garden is falling apart right now. She is currently eating the hibiscus plant. So that's fun. Now, one plant that I could not bear to tear a single one of them out, this might be one of my favorite flowers ever, is my purple cone flowers. Look how gorgeous they are. And they're just now starting to open. The bees love these. The butterflies love these. And I also love them. So, these will always have a place in my perennial bed. You gonna behave yourself now? Nope. Not since I talked to you, huh? Yeah, she has like really torn up this garden this year. It's a shame that she did. It probably wouldn't have happened if we wouldn't have gotten this dog, but what we're gonna do is put a white picket fence around this garden, and on the other end where she can't get to, we're gonna have like an archway arbor. Eva, please stop eating the hibiscus. Stop it! Anyway, like I was saying, we're going to put an arbor on this end where she can't get to, and I'm probably like maybe gonna grow like a climbing rose or some clematis up it. I don't know, but this whole area is gonna get an overhaul, and it's probably gonna be a little bit bigger than what it is now, which is kind of exciting because that means that I'm gonna have more room to plant some stuff. And anyway, the fence will keep her out, and so hopefully I don't lose so many plants. She decided to dig up one of my roses on the, I don't think you can even see it from here. I'll have to go to the other side. But anyway, there's an obelisk right there, and I had a rose plant on it. I think it was a blaze rose, and it had finally started taking off this spring. And last week I came out to look at the garden, and she had completely dug that rose up out of the ground, and she took it under the back carport and just ripped it in half and chewed on it. So yeah, I was very upset about that. But if we get a fence around this whole thing, I won't have to worry about her ruining everything anymore. And I told my husband, I was like, well, can we just fence in the dog? And he didn't like that, so we're going to fence in every single flower garden that we have in the yard. Which makes a lot of sense. Okay, right here I had another big stand of those ditch lilies, and I planted 3 of the Prairie Sun Rudbeckia, and I think I have 3 of the columbines here. And also I wanted to show you this. Look at this. I think it's Veronica. Looking pretty. I think the variety that I planted was, I started those from seed, and I think the variety was Sightseeing Mixture or something like that. I could be wrong about that one too. I wanted to show you this too, right here up front. Cherry Brandy Rudbeckia, just now opening up. This, I think this is one of my favorite plants, is Rudbeckia too. Like the cone flowers, the Rudbeckia, for some reason I like that daisy shape. And also, look at this. For some reason, this crappy Weigela that I bought from one of those spring catalogs that give you those good deals has decided to take off after 4 years. I can't believe the growth that it has put on this spring. And you can see here, this was the original plant that they sent me. I need to cut this off, but it completely died. And this came back from roots. Like, I can't believe, I can't believe it made it. But it's looking really pretty. Now, I've never seen it bloom, but those leaves, like, does it really need to bloom when you have leaves like that? I don't think so. I also got my new heuchera planted here under the peach tree. Magma heuchera, very pretty, has its bloom stalks right now. And you may be asking yourself, why are all of these pieces of wood in here? Well, it's because it's propping up the peach tree. Like, I am so afraid that this thing is gonna just crack in half. I even went through and pulled at least half of the fruit off of this thing. And it, like, I think I still need more props. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of wood propping this tree up, and it still needs more. Because these fruits are still going to get bigger before they're ripe. But I'm just like, holy moly. I have never seen this tree produce like this. Well, I haven't even got to eat a fruit off of it yet, because it would only produce a few if it did produce anything, and then the deer would get them before I had a chance to. So I should be able to get some fruit off of this tree this year, because it's just crazy. I mean, it is like hanging down to where I have to like I have to squat down to get in here to weed and everything. It's just ridiculous. And my poor plants, I've got bee balm, and they're so leggy because they were trying to get up past this tree. So they're like growing up here in the middle, but look how pretty they are. And the bees and butterflies love those. But yeah, it's like, it's pretty interesting here. Hopefully it gathers some strength for the next time that it fruits, because this is just ridiculous. Okay, here on both sides of the swing, I kind of changed the plantings around. I did keep my mint. I've got spearmint here. I have chocolate mint here. And then in this front container, I have marjoram and a Prairie Sun Rudbeckia. And then I have a carbon tomato that I am growing up the side of this swing. Now the other side has a cherry brandy Rudbeckia right here, Prairie Sun Rudbeckia, and then I grew thyme around all of these plants. And then here I have a Berry's Crazy Cherry growing up this side. And I did put a tomato cage in here. Like, this is one of the great big tomato cages, but it still probably won't be enough to contain this hot mess. I might have to trim on it a little bit. But then the friendly neighborhood peach tree is like hanging down on this too. Like, usually this limb is like way up there and I don't have to worry about it shading stuff over here, but like it's just laying down here right next to the swing, right next to the tomato plant. But we're just gonna have to deal with it until we get some fruit off of here. Here's some more props. More props like I was showing you before. We just like cut a notch out in some of them to help hold it, but like, I don't know, it's like it's gonna need more than that. More bee balm up in there. I have some Orangium here, which I think is really cool looking. I like Orangium, but it looks like that something's been eating these. Or maybe they're just suffering from so much shade. That could be a possibility too, but anyway, they're pretty. And more bee balm. And I'm kind of wondering, I started this from seed too, and this is the second season that I've had this, and I'm kind of wondering, like at the beginning of this season, because this is really tall, like it's taller than me. I'm 5'2", which isn't a lot, but it's taller than me, and I'm kind of wondering if early in the season, if I would cut it back by half, if it would bush out instead of just growing straight up, you know. And like Eva comes right through here, right on cue, and she has broken so many. Like, this would have been a massive stand of bee balm, but she has broken so many plants off that were right through there. And like, really, you're killing me. So I kind of wonder if I would just cut them back and they would stay shorter, if they would be more hard for her to just knock over. So here's the obelisk that I was telling you about, that I had my rose planted right here, and it had grown, I think, like 2 feet already this season, and she pulled it out, dug it out, and then took it over under the carport and chewed it in half. So there's no hope for that rose. And I'm not going to try to replace anything right here because she can get to this spot right now. So anything through here, I'm not going to replace anything until we get that fence up, because that would just be silly whenever she can get right back in here. Hopefully she leaves some of my bigger, more established plants alone, because if she would take out this heuchera here, I would be devastated. I grew this from seed. It's a Purple Palace heuchera, and I think that I've had this thing for probably 4 years now. And I mean, it looks amazing every year, and like if she would take this plant out, I would be devastated. And same thing, which I'm really worried about this one too. This Astilbe right here. I think it blooms pink, but anyway, I grew that from seed too. So I kind of have an attachment to plants that I have started from seed, because it takes so many years for like perennials like this to get this size. And you know, that kind of justifies like why you go to a garden center and you pay so much for a plant, because it takes years from a seed to get to a size like this. And if she would take these out, like, I would just be devastated. Now, these next two plants I also grew from seed. I have a blue fescue grass here, which, you know, some people do not like those. But I think they have a pretty texture, and apparently she's going to try to eat everything that I point out. But anyway, I like the color variation that I have going on here, because I have that heuchera, and then I have the blue fescue grass, and then I have a buddleia, butterfly bush right here. And it is very green. The foliage is very green, and it blooms purple blooms. So this is like a really nice area right here. But I gotta keep check on this butterfly bush, because it's one of the old-fashioned type. Like I said, I started it from seed, and like it will just take over. So like I have to keep cutting it back. And well, Eva has basically taken care of that for me this year. She keeps it trimmed back and in check. But you can see, let's see, this obelisk here is probably, I'm gonna say 7 feet. Butterfly bush is pretty much 7 feet, I would say. No blooms on it yet, but pretty soon the bees and butterflies are going to be very happy with this plant. I did leave some of the daylilies in this bed, because I do have a couple that are really pretty, and they don't go as crazy as the orange ones do. So I left some in here, and I'm sure that next year I'm going to have to weed some more of the orange ones out, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I have one here, one here. You can see that the growth habit is different, because these are a lot shorter. I have one there. I have one there. So I'm still going to have some lilies in here. It won't be completely void of lilies. And then here's my massive hibiscus again. We've came full circle, so we're about done here. I also have a big stand of phlox here. I think this is a white one. White phlox, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, the poor little barberry that you saw early season that looked like it had plenty of room is now being shrouded by everything. So the next steps for this flower bed, since I have everything weeded, cleaned up, the lilies taken out, the catmint taken out, you know, stuff replanted, I am going to go through and put a layer of compost down, and then I will take wood chips and cover this whole area as mulch to keep moisture in and help keep the weeds down a little bit. Like, it's not foolproof, you're always going to have to weed, but the wood chips do help a lot. And Eva is right back there in the flower bed again. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time here on the Wilson Homestead. Bye, guys.